at an early age. You know, some folk don't reach some of the things that I've done until they're in their 50s and 60s. And for me to be able to have done this at such a young age, I can only attribute that to the most outstanding upbringing that I had. Right in the worst city in the country, Camden, New Jersey. Yeah. Like with a mother and father who was there. My grandmother, who I spent weekends with and went to church with every weekend. She took care of me. She's here too. Raise your hand, Grandma. That's my father's mother. I had an awesome relationship with my mother's mother. She's not with us any longer, but that's my mother and father. Raise your hand, please.
All right.
I got started at a young age is my point, right? And so to echo what you said, Ms. Marnice, what I think is important is that we educate young folk, and what my dad emphasized was prevention. Like, a lot of people get into rehab, and rehab there's a place for that as well. However, prevention is where it all starts. Like if I argue with a friend of mine and say their purpose is to deal with women issues. And I say, well, in order to deal with women issues, you have to deal with young ladies, young children's issues, young women issues, because they are the future women. So, like, women now are kind of set in their ways, and they can learn too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying because you're 50, you're not learning anymore, right? But I'm saying that someone 12, a young lady that's 12, needs to learn to be a woman at that point. You know what I mean? And a young man that's 12 and 11 needs to learn how to pull his pants up and not walk down the street with his cheeks showing. Like it's pathetic what young folk are doing, and I think that is who we need to talk to rather than or focus on. So I appreciate my mother and father for doing that, and not only did they do it with me, I became a secondary part of what they did. What they did was they did it for the entire community. And so I watched them do it for countless children. And because they did it for countless children, I ended up benefiting from that. So some people would argue, your parents didn't really focus on you. And I say, yes, they did. Yes, they did. Because by them focusing on all of those children, the young man who was in and out of homes, and he slept on my top bunk, and we always make a joke that he wet the bed. So he was on the top bunk, I was at the bottom, and he wet the bed one night, and it was dripping on me. And right, there's some poeticism there though, that like, while my parents were helping the community, some of what they were doing was kind of dripping on their own child, right? The grit and grind of that work was kind of dripping onto. But because of that, it developed those strong roots you talked about, Marnice. You know what I mean? The strong roots. And as she was talking, I looked around the audience, and I just said, where's the young folk that need to see Marnice Davis?
That's right.
Like, they need to see her articulate, clean, a quality young lady. You know what I mean? In college, come from high school, just left high school a couple minutes ago. Talked about what goes on the prom weekend. Right. Young folk need to hear that. That's all right. Of us don't need to hear that. We had our proms, you know what I mean? And I'm young, I had my prom, so I know you had your proms, right? And so, young folk who are getting ready to go on prom weekend and kill themselves or someone else need to hear Marnice Davis say that. So what I would charge us and the NAACP to have Marnice speak to young folk, and she's probably already doing it, but set up some opportunities for her to speak to young folk, people who are on their way to college, kids 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. She could tell them about being the only one to get that scholarship, right? And tell them how important it is for them to hear that. You know what I mean? So rather than us just talk about what we're doing, have people like you talk about what it is that they can do. You know what I mean? So I appreciate being here to hear her do that, and to be a part of this. I thank the NAACP tremendously for honoring what it is I've done. When they talked about the things I've done, I was looking around, figure out who are they talking about. Because I do all the things in the midst of just working, you know what I mean? So I will be remiss if I don't mention my wife, JAMAL Dickerson. We met at the only high school in the world, which is the mighty purple and gold Camden High School. There is no other high school. The other honoree was one of the teachers at the high school. So no one else matters but us. Overbrook, we love Overbrook. Now, we compete against Overbrook in jazz band now, and we always wipe them off the floor. Our jazz band just sends Overbrook home. But no, we love Overbrook. Really good relationship with the band director there, good friends, he and I are. And I just want to mention, though, that my wife and I met in 11th grade. Well, we knew each other in 9th grade, and she used to help me in math class because I wasn't really good at math. And you know, we would sit down, do homework together, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes she would do the homework for me. But I was a focused student. But I was just smart enough to get with someone smarter than me. And so we met in the high school. We've been together. I said to my wife then, I said, we're going to get married one day. You're going to be my wife, because she just had those qualities that she possessed now. Like, you know, she's a hard worker. When I met her, her sister told me, come please meet my sister. And I'm done. I don't want to speak forever. But her sister told me, come meet my sister. And I said, I don't want to meet your sister, right? And she was like, I'm telling you, you and my sister are for each other. She's the kind of young lady you would like. So she said, why don't you guys meet at a little gathering you were having? So I went, and she didn't show up. So I said, well, I went to this thing your sister told me to come to meet you, and you didn't show up. And she said, I don't go to parties. So I said, wow. And why that was impressive is because I don't either. So it was like pulling teeth to get me to go there, right? So her sister said, well, why don't you just come to the house? When I went to the house, she was taking care of her grandmother and her grandfather. And so I came in the house, and she kind of made me like an afterthought. She said, you're taking care of my grandmother and grandfather. You can have a seat over there. It was kind of like that. And I was like, wow, that was impressive. So she was in the kitchen taking care of her. She went and she popped her grandfather's can of something to drink and took it out to the porch and said, Papa, are you okay? Is everything all right? And he said, I'm fine, baby. And she gave him that, and she heated up her grandmother's peanuts because she liked them heated. And this is right in Parkside on Empire Street. And so she went over and took care of that, the Green family. She took care of her grandmother. And then she came to me maybe like about 20 minutes later after I was sitting there. Right? And she had been taking care of all this. And she came to me and said, okay, so how are you doing? And we sat and we talked. And I said, wow, that was really impressive. She's a young lady who respects herself, isn't into some guy, you know, she's focused on the work, doing the work. And she's still doing that now. So she's running for city council, and you know, I'm like, yeah. At the onset, I'm like, no, I'm not sharing my wife with y'all. Like, she's a beautiful wife. We have 6 children together. She and I together have 6 children, and she takes care of children like, you know, like it's a second nature method that she has. So I'm like, no, we still got the young one. She's 2 yet, 3. And do we really want to do this right now? And my dad, who's like the boss, he's the head honcho. You know, anybody who knows politics, that's our Norcross, I call him, right? Because he's the head honcho, right? So bottom line, he said we needed to run, we needed to do this, we need to take care of business. So I said, yes, sir, right? And so she's doing that, and she's doing that well. She does whatever she gets involved in, she gives it 150%. So I'm saying that to say that I appreciate everything she does. I appreciate her being an example of a mother and a wife, and her running for the city council. Another lane, but they have something where you could learn more about what it is they're doing, and you could probably find out from them exactly what that is. I don't want to mess it up. But thank you guys so much. NAACP, thank you. Thank you for my mother and father. Ms. Walker, thank you so much. The genius in the audience here you see, Miss Austin, she is phenomenal. Miss Lewis, Miss Carol Lewis, who was one of the teachers at Camden High, and her son is all over the world. So there's just so many people, and I appreciate all that you do. Darnice, talk to some young folk. We need you, Marnice, pardon me, we need you to speak to young folk. Thank you so much.
Mr. Dickerson, I agree with you completely. You got to start with the foundation and then work your way up. Absolutely, absolutely. Miss Maisha,